Emma Carter never expected a cup of coffee to change her life. At 26 years old, she lived the kind of life most people would call ordinary. She rented a small apartment in Brooklyn, worked long hours as a graphic designer, paid her bills on time, ordered too much takeout, and spent most nights wondering if life was ever going to get more exciting. The answer arrived on a rainy Thursday evening, and it arrived wearing a black Italian suit worth more than her monthly salary. The storm outside had turned Manhattan into a blur of headlights and reflections. Emma rushed through the lobby of one of the city's most luxurious hotels, balancing her phone, laptop bag, and a large coffee she desperately needed. She was already late for a client meeting. Her boss had called 3 times. The client was important, and Emma was moving too fast to notice the man walking toward her. The collision was instant. Coffee exploded everywhere. Across a black suit, across a white shirt, across polished dress shoes. The entire lobby seemed to freeze. Emma's stomach dropped. Oh my God. She stared in horror. I am so sorry. The man didn't answer. For several seconds, he simply looked at her. Not angry, not annoyed, just interested, which somehow felt worse. Emma quickly grabbed napkins from a nearby table. I'm really sorry. I wasn't looking where I was going. Still, nothing. The man finally glanced at the coffee stain and then back at her. His gray eyes were cold enough to stop traffic, yet there was something else behind them. Something she couldn't quite understand. What is your name? He asked. The question caught her off guard. Emma. The stranger repeated it quietly, almost like he was memorizing it. Emma. Then he stepped aside. You should go. Emma blinked. That was it? No yelling, no demands, no threats. Just go. Confused, she hurried toward the elevators and disappeared into the crowd. She never noticed the hotel manager rushing toward the man seconds later. She never saw the armed security team positioned around the lobby. And she definitely never heard the manager ask the question that followed. Mr. Volkov. Should we locate her? The man's eyes remained fixed on the elevator doors. Yes. The manager swallowed. How much information do you want? The answer came immediately. Everything. Emma woke up the next morning to someone pounding on her apartment door. Half asleep, she opened it and nearly fainted. White roses. Hundreds of them. Enough flowers to fill her entire living room. The delivery driver handed her a card. Emma opened it carefully. Inside was a single sentence. For the coffee. V. No explanation. No phone number. Nothing else. Emma laughed nervously. Whoever this guy was, he clearly had a strange sense of humor. She tried forgetting about it. Unfortunately, he wasn't ready to forget about her. 3 days later, another surprise arrived. A luxury gift basket. The next week, a new laptop. Then her landlord informed her that 6 months of rent had already been paid. Emma's confusion slowly turned into concern. No one spent this kind of money on a stranger. No one. The answer arrived when her best friend, Sarah, walked into her apartment and spotted one of the cards. Sarah immediately turned pale. Where did you get this? Emma shrugged. Some rich guy. Sarah grabbed her phone and searched a name. Then she handed the screen to Emma. The photograph made Emma's blood run cold. It was him, the man from the hotel. The same gray eyes. The same face. The same impossible presence. The headline underneath read, Viktor Volkov, international billionaire, business magnate, one of the most feared men in organized crime. Emma stared at the screen, then looked back at Sarah, then looked at the screen again. No. Sarah nodded. Yes. Emma felt sick, because suddenly all the flowers, gifts, and attention made sense. One of the most dangerous men in the world knew exactly who she was. And for some reason, he couldn't stop thinking about her. For the next 2 weeks, Emma did everything she could to ignore Viktor Volkov. She ignored the flowers, ignored the gifts, ignored the strange feeling that someone was watching over her. But some people are impossible to ignore, especially when they refuse to disappear. One Friday evening, Emma attended a charity gala for work. Her company had spent months designing the event's promotional campaign, and attendance wasn't optional. The ballroom overlooked the Manhattan skyline. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Champagne flowed freely. Every person in the room looked rich enough to own a private island. Emma spent most of the evening wishing she were home in sweatpants watching Netflix. Then she saw him. Viktor! Standing across the room, surrounded by politicians, CEOs, celebrities, and security personnel. Yet somehow he seemed completely separate from everyone else. The room buzzed with conversation, but Viktor's attention was fixed on one person. Her. Emma's stomach tightened. The moment their eyes met, she knew. He had noticed her the second she walked into the room, and he hadn't looked away since. She should have left. Instead, she walked directly toward him. Maybe it was frustration, maybe curiosity, maybe both. When she finally stopped in front of him, Viktor looked almost pleased, as though he had known she would come. "What do you want from me?" Emma asked. The nearby conversations immediately quieted. People pretended not to listen. No one succeeded. Viktor took a sip of his drink. "You seem upset?" Emma folded her arms. "You paid my rent." Silence. "You sent flowers." Silence. "You sent gifts." Silence. Finally, Viktor spoke. "I wanted to help." Emma stared at him. "Normal people don't help like that." A faint smile touched his lips. "I've never been accused of being normal." Despite herself, Emma almost laughed. The realization annoyed her. She was supposed to be angry. Instead, she found him entertaining. That was dangerous. Very dangerous. Viktor stepped slightly closer. Not enough to invade her space. Just enough to make her aware of him. "I know this is unusual." "Unusual?" Emma repeated. "Most people call this stalking." The smile widened, a genuine smile, the kind that transformed his entire face. For the first time, he looked less like a criminal mastermind and more like a man, a very handsome man, which was unfortunately not helping Emma think clearly. "Tell me something," Viktor said. "What?" "When was the last time someone noticed you?" Emma frowned. "What does that mean?" His eyes softened. "Really noticed you?" The question caught her off guard, because if she was honest, it had been a long time. Most people noticed what she did, what she provided, what she could help with. Very few people actually noticed her. Viktor seemed to read the answer on her face, and somehow that made the moment feel far too intimate. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Emma looked away first. A mistake, because she knew exactly what was happening. The walls she had built around herself were beginning to crack. And Viktor was the reason why the following weeks became a battle between common sense and emotion. Common sense told Emma to stay away from Viktor. Emotion kept pulling her back. He called occasionally, never excessively, never demanding. Just enough to make her smile when his name appeared on her phone. They shared dinners, conversations, late-night walks through parts of the city most people never got to see. To Emma's surprise, Viktor rarely talked about business. Instead, he asked about her dreams, her childhood, her favorite movies, the places she wanted to visit, the life she wanted to build. Nobody had ever listened to her the way Viktor did, and that frightened her, because little by little, she was falling in love with him. The problem was that Viktor came with a world she couldn't control. A dangerous world, a violent world, a world that eventually caught up with them. It happened on a cold Tuesday night. Emma was leaving her office when she noticed a black van parked across the street. The vehicle hadn't been there earlier. Something about it felt wrong. Her instincts screamed at her to leave. She turned and immediately collided with a man. The stranger grabbed her arm. Hard. Another man appeared behind her. Fear exploded through her chest. Then everything happened at once. Black SUVs roared around the corner. Doors flew open. Armed security personnel flooded the street. The attackers never stood a chance. Within seconds, they were pinned to the pavement. Emma's heart pounded. And then she saw Viktor. He emerged from one of the SUVs. His expression was unlike anything she had ever seen. Cold, controlled, terrifying. The two attackers immediately started begging, actually begging. Not the police, not the security team. Viktor! The sight chilled Emma to the bone. These men weren't afraid of jail. They were afraid of him. Viktor approached slowly. What did they do? One security guard answered. They grabbed her. A dangerous silence followed. The kind of silence that made everyone uncomfortable, including Emma. Viktor looked at the attackers, then at his men. Remove them. The attackers turned pale. Their pleading became desperate. But Viktor never looked back. Minutes later they were gone, and Emma never saw them again. The drive home was silent. Finally, Emma spoke. Why would someone target me? Viktor's jaw tightened because he already knew the answer, and he hated it because of me. Emma looked at him. What does that mean? Viktor stared out the window. It means people have discovered something. What? For the first time since she'd met him, uncertainty crossed his face. A weakness. Emma's heart skipped a beat. Because suddenly, she understood. The weakness was her, not because she had power, not because she had money, but because Viktor cared about her. And in his world, that was enough. The news reached them 2 days later. An anonymous organization had placed a bounty on Emma Carter. $1 billion. The story spread across criminal networks around the world. Every mercenary, every assassin, every ambitious criminal suddenly wanted the same thing. M. Because anyone who delivered her would become unimaginably rich. For the first time, Emma realized how dangerous Viktor's feelings had become. Not for him, for her. And somewhere, out there, someone was preparing to use her as a weapon against the most feared man in the world.